Do you ever feel broken? Do you ever feel fragmented? Do you ever feel lost, like you don't know where you're going in life or what you're doing? Many people feel this way, but rarely will they admit it, and often they won't even admit it to themselves. They'd rather convince themselves that they're doing okay, that they're happy, when underlying that feeling is a sense of dread, guilt, shame, anger, many different fragments and emotions vying for attention in consciousness. Many different fragments of the personality. It might feel like there's 100 different voices in your head. One of them wants a relationship. One of them wants to be alone and wants time to think. One of them wants more social connection. One of them wants to go into this career. One of them wants to go into the other career. One of the voices is angry and wants to lash out at people because you feel like you don't have the life you deserve. You don't feel like you don't have the things you deserve. Another voice feels guilty for the people you've hurt and for not living up to your full potential. These are just a few examples, and all of us have many fragments inside of ourselves. And the way this happens, I've discussed in a couple of previous videos, which is through social conditioning and expectations of society. What happens is that certain genuine aspects of ourselves, certain parts of our personality, they don't fit into the culture of what's generally accepted, admired. They don't fit. So what we end up doing is putting those parts of ourselves in the bag, so to speak, that we drag behind us, parts of ourselves that we don't acknowledge, but parts that sometimes still find a way to express themselves through the unconscious. You might be surprised to see yourself lashing out, to see yourself partaking in an addiction you'd thought you've overcome. You might be surprised to see yourself backsliding when you were doing so well. What's going on is these parts of ourselves that we've shoved into the unconscious, that you've shoved into the unconscious, they're coming back into the light. They don't just go away. They're still a part of who you are, but they're not a part of the persona that you present to the world. And often they're not a part of the ego that you accept yourself to be. It's worth taking the time to heal yourself. You're worth healing. And in fact, these broken parts of yourself, right now they're repressed and they're causing undesirable behaviors and emotions. But if you can learn to sit with these parts, communicate with them in a compassionate manner, see what they're trying to tell you, see what they need, and then integrate them healthily into a holistic personality, that's really going to serve you, and it's going to make you much happier, fulfilled, and able to achieve your goals. So what I'm getting at here is a concept called shadow work. The unconscious parts that you don't normally acknowledge of yourself is called the shadow. So by working, communicating, being compassionate with ourselves, digging deep, journaling, introspecting, we can make a lot of progress towards living more authentically. You can make a lot of progress towards living more authentically. And I'm going to make more videos on shadow work in the future, as it's an area that I'm reading a lot of books in right now, and that I'm doing a lot of work on myself personally. So as I make progress, I'm going to share that with you and share the best tools and advice with you. But for this introductory video, I also want to talk a little bit about projection, because in the world today, we often see groups of people judging each other, individuals judging each other. We think, I'm the good guy, I'm right, and they're wrong, and they're bad. And I'm trying to think of an example. For example, you may have an angry family member, an angry spouse, an angry partner, and you judge them. Why are they so angry? Why are they popping off at the most slight disturbance? But what goes unrecognized is that a vast majority of the time you're judging someone else for a behavior. Really, that behavior is a repressed part of yourself, and you'd rather project that onto someone else and judge them rather than acknowledge, oh, actually, I have the capacity for that, and that's a repressed part of myself. So you may feel, and this won't apply to everyone, this is just to illustrate the point, but you may feel that inside you're angry, and you're angry that in life you're not where you feel you deserve to be or where you're meant to be, that you don't have what you want. That anger, whether you're conscious of it or not, may be deep inside of you. And so when you see somebody else expressing that, you project that onto them and feel some type of way about them. And the profundity of this goes really deep, because anytime you're feeling really, and one way to tell is if you're feeling overly emotional about something that really isn't that big of a deal in someone else and exaggerating it. If you can just catch yourself doing that, you can know for sure that you're projecting. Because what happens when you start to heal this, and in areas where you're not projecting and just seeing things as you are, you may see someone partake in an undesirable behavior. For example, being greedy for money and trying to make a lot of money. But let's say you've worked through that, and you've worked through your issues with money. You may see somebody, one person may see somebody being very greedy, and they'll be, oh, I can't believe them. They're inhumane. They're exploiting people for money. Even in a case that isn't super severe, they may say that. And some of their criticism may be valid, but underlying that, what's going on is they're denying that aspect of themselves. They're denying their capacity to be greedy and exploit people for what they want and be manipulative. They may see themselves as a person who doesn't do those things, but really they do, and it's just lying in the unconscious. It's a behavior they're unwilling to address. However, if they were to become aware of projection and see themselves doing that, that would be an opportunity to heal that issue. Now, another person already have being healed may see that same behavior and just not react. There's nothing within them that's going to get triggered. That behavior isn't in them, so therefore they can criticize it. They can see that that's not a behavior they want to partake in, but they're not going to be overly emotional and reactive about it, because there's nothing inside of them anymore that's going to get triggered over that. So the point I'm trying to make is, when you become aware of this modality of projection, it can be a really helpful, useful healing tool, because now anytime you start to get emotionally triggered, instead of going deeper into judging that person and how could they be this way and things like that, you're now going to look inside and see, in what ways am I like this, and in what ways do I need to heal. So, when you're broken, you're feeling overly emotional all the time, it's important to just take some time. Don't keep doing what you're doing. Don't rush to make more money, get in the relationship. Just chill. Take some time, sit down, be with your thoughts, do some journaling, read some good books. Take the time to heal yourself, because you're worth healing, and it's worth you living authentically. And the world needs people to do this work and to heal themselves. That's why I've started this channel, and that's why I'm moving in the direction of being a spiritual coach and sharing valuable information, because I want to be a part of the solution to what's going on in the world, where people are judging each other, are hostile against each other, when what we need is unity and to help each other heal. So it's important that we don't judge each other anymore, and we help each other. And not only you may feel broken, but the world is broken. So many people are feeling like this. And just by you, it may feel selfish to take the time for yourself. You may be someone that is always there for other people, but nobody is really there for you. Now's the time you need to be there for yourself, and it's not selfish, because healing yourself is going to allow you to be a positive force into the world. Just by your example alone, you're going to help many people. And if you feel called to do so, you can step into a career doing that. But first, what's required is that you heal yourself so that you're able to help others and to live authentically, to separate what society wants you to do, what society's conditioned you, the desires, to separate that out from authentically who you want to be and how you want to live. It's time that we heal so that we can decide for ourselves what type of lives we want to live. You are worth healing. Your dreams are worth achieving. And to do that, shadow work is required, deep inner work is required, and it's not comfortable. It's very uncomfortable and confronting. But on the other side of that is a happy, authentic life and a much more powerful presence. Because within these shadowy elements, within the undesirable aspects of yourself, there's actually power and there's authenticity in the genuine expression of that. It may seem like it's all darkness, like it's all bad habits, like you just want to run away and deny that part of yourself. But by introspecting, accepting who you are fully, you're able to work with these parts and reclaim the energy that's trapped within them. These complexes, we could call them, that sometimes take over the psyche, that cause you to indulge in an addiction, they have a great amount of energy lodged within them. And once we're able to work with it, the way you want to work with it is to be a little detached, be the observer, viewing the complex, viewing the uncomfortable parts of yourself coming up. Have compassion for them and see underlying what they really want. It may be that that part of you that's indulging in an addiction really just wants love deep down. And so that you can find a more suitable way to fulfill the need of that part of yourself. And then it becomes integrated. It's not a fragmented part that takes over the psyche anymore. It's just an authentic piece of who you are expressing in a more healthy manner when you're able to do this work. And it can take months and years to get to a place where you're fully integrated. And this work really continues our whole life. But if you commit to this work and do it on a regular basis, you're going to start to see improvements and changes in who you are, even in the beginning. So yeah, open the conversation back up to those parts of yourself you've suppressed, to the parts of yourself you don't like. Be that observer, open the conversation, and do whatever it takes to heal yourself, whatever that means for you. Meditate, read some good books, find a spiritual practice, but more than anything, introspect and see how you can heal yourself and live a more healthy life. I've got a couple book recommendations. This book, Owning Your Own Shadow, is a really good introduction to shadow work, and it's a really easy read. I read this in about 3 hours, 3.5 hours in one sitting. So it's easy to get through, and it'll give you a good understanding of what shadow work entails and how to do it. And I just opened to a random page, so I'm going to read this quote that I highlighted. Our fate can truly be altered if we have the courage to embrace the opposites. In this case, milking was the gold in the shadow, the saving grace. While most rituals center on the dark side of the personality, it is important to remember that golden opportunities also come from the same source. and they can resist our efforts to incorporate them even more than the dark elements. So also, that's a good point that I didn't bring up, is another part of the shadow is the golden shadow. The parts of yourself that you also may project onto others. Oh, he's so great and he's such a great teacher. Or, oh, look at him, I wish I was that charismatic. Those are unknown elements of yourself that you can step into also through the shadow work. That's the positive side of this. It's not just all negative aspects you don't want to see. There's also the golden potential, which can be even harder to embody and accept. It can be scary to step into. But that's the potential of shadow work, is it can allow you to embody the highest aspects and the greatest parts of yourself that you've denied. And also rituals can help, such as kind of meditation and just giving the darkness up to your object of worship and just kind of letting the light wash over you, or whatever ritual or whatever practice works for you. Those can be a good way of dealing with that darkness so that it doesn't start to consume you when you're really introspecting and going deep into the dark unconscious depths. I think that was about all I had to say. I've got one more book recommendation here, Jung's Map of the Soul. I've been reading a lot of works surrounding Carl Jung, and this is a really good introduction to Jung's work. It's very deep psychologically and also goes into metaphysics. And I was surprised. I didn't really know how metaphysically deep and sort of spiritual Jung's work is, even though he was very also committed to proving everything scientifically and fitting it within the scientific paradigm. It's very profound, and that's where I got a lot of this. This book is where a lot of the inspiration from this video came from. Um, so if you're interested in this kind of psychological stuff and you want to get into shadow work, Carl Jung is the psychologist who came up with the term shadow work and who popularized it. So if you're interested, this is a really great introduction to Jung's work, Jung's Map of the Soul. Um, and all right, let's just see if we can find a useful quote here by flipping through the pages. Here it goes. What is it that causes personas to stick to people with tenacity? In part, it is identification and sheer familiarity. A persona becomes identified with one's personality. It offers a psychosocial identity, but shame is also a fundamental motivator. The persona protects one from shame, and the avoidance of shame is probably the strongest motive for developing and holding on to a persona. And a quick aside, the definition of a persona is the face you show to the public, the part of yourself that you show socially. So continuing, Ruth Benedict's writings on shame and guilt cultures showed that Western nations are characteristically guilt cultures, and Eastern countries are by contrast shame cultures. Shame cultures emphasize persona more than do guilt cultures, in the sense that if one loses face, one might as well die. Loss of face is the ultimate crisis. The situation is quite different in guilt cultures, where guilt can be assuaged or redressed. The guilty person can pay the price and be restored to community. We tend to feel either guilty about or profoundly ashamed of the things we do that are at odds with the adopted persona. This is the realization of shadow in the personality. Shadow induces shame, a sense of unworthiness, a feeling of uncleanliness, of being soiled and unwanted. So that'll give you an idea of kind of what the book's about, and also how the shadow can induce guilt and shame, and how working on this can heal those guiltful and shameful patterns. Because guilt and shame, there is a healthy guilt and shame, but 95% of the guilt and shame we feel is unhealthy, and it only causes us to spiral further and just live in bad emotional states. But I think I'll end the conversation there and let you do your own further research if you feel called to. And as an action step, next time you feel like partaking in a bad addiction or behavior you don't want to do, either replace that with a good habit, such as reading or going on a walk, or spend 20 minutes journaling as to why you want to partake in that behavior and what part of yourself it is that's urging you to indulge in that. So thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, please like and subscribe. I've got a lot of exciting content coming, and we'll also be releasing a weekly newsletter very soon. So check the description for that. It'll be in there when it's ready. And I wish you the best on your healing journeys, everyone. Take the time to heal yourself. You're worth healing, and you're meant to do great things in this world.